back to our channel. I'm Dillmon, your Midwest property gal. Thanks for joining us today as we're going to talk about exterior water issues. So one of the biggest problems I encounter when selling a home and helping people buy homes, and one of the first things we do when we help buyers is we walk out and take a look at the grade of the lot and figure out where is all this water running. So to help us today with water issues around a home is Steve Burton at Waterproof Solutions. Steve is my absolute favorite waterproof guy. This guy knows what he's talking about. Today we're going to talk about the exterior water issues in a home. So Steve, first things first, most people are like, hey, I've got gutters, right? Water falls on my roof, goes into my gutter system, runs down, and then right away they can have issues just from where the gutter's draining. So tell me about some of the things that you do, or some of the things that you've seen people do just to drain their gutters, and what works and what doesn't work.
Well, I think the funniest thing I see is when they have the little concrete gutter guard at the bottom of the gutter, and the open part's not at the end, so the water hits.
Oh yeah, right.
I mean, that's the least you could do, but you could at least put that on right if you're going to do that. But
so you're talking about the little concrete block you put at the bottom of the base of your gutter, and there has a closed end and an open end.
Right.
And you need to let the water run away, so the open end needs to be away from the house.
Kind of funny, but usually that's what hurts a garage. When a garage fails, if it will, that end of that downspouts just pounding the water down there. So you go through a wet and dry cycle, and we get these 100-year droughts about every 6 months, and we get a 100-year rain about every 5 years. So everything's off the charts as far as how you design something now. So you have to design it to where it's going to work under duress situations.
Okay.
So, as much as we like to make a little fun about certain things, but the first thing I would say is do not bury your downspouts in corrugated pipe, especially perforated. And I cannot tell you how many times I've seen that. So this water's coming down the downspout, goes into the pipe, and it's going right into the yard immediately. It's important to have PVC being used and coming out of your downspouts. PVC is going to give us a chance to clean it out later. In fact, I don't have one in here right now, but a clean out would be put on. So let's just use this for an illustration. If your downspout, this is for a discharge for a sump, but we can use this in the same illustration. Pretend this isn't here, and we just got our downspout coming out in the way. This would also have a drywall under it, so there'd be a lot of holes drilled in this, or we would be using a drywall mechanism, which we'll talk about in a minute. But you've got to get this water at least 8 feet to 10 feet away from the house based on landscaping.
So I want to use solid PVC.
It doesn't have to be Schedule 40, like this is 30. It's much more flexible.
But I don't want any holes in it.
No.
And I want it 6 to 8 feet away from my house.
Yes.
So once it gets away from my house, I notice you got these little pop-up deals here. I see these a lot.
Notice how that one looks nice and new?
Yeah, so water comes in, boom, pops it up, and this way you can cut your grass.
Reality of it is what they really look like. They don't pop up, and you wind up with problems. So that brings us to a dry well. And let me illustrate this over here real quick. A dry well is nothing but your yard with a big hole in it. And sometimes this can be 3 by 3 by 3. The cubic yard, 27.
So it's just full of rock?
Yeah, so you've got rock in here, and it's river rock.
River rock?
River rock.
Okay.
Clean rock, it still has minus on it. If you can go out to a rock pile that they've said is clean, grab you a handful of it, and look what's on your hand, and that's called minus. Minus is it's a form of concrete almost, in the sense that it's a cementitious material. In the sense it's not, but it will seep like that. So you've got this pipe that you're trying to keep clean. Let's say you have a French drain outside, which the holes would be attended to. We'll talk about this, but this pipe starts to get loaded up with minus around it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work at all.
It's going to be like concrete around it.
Right.
It's going to be like a solid barrier, and it's not going to let the water out.
That's exactly right.
All right, so we want to use river rock.
So you've got a river rock. So river rock is very important, and river rock is so abundant and so cheap, that's what needs to be put in here, not clean. So now so now you've put a hole in my yard that has rock in it. Why?
And this is at least 6 to 8 feet out from my house.
I really like 10. My standard's 10, but I've seen many engineers and architects call that out. So Not trying to be overkill, and landscaping can have a lot to do that. I mean, if I got a drop off coming out the back of the house, shoot, 3 feet will probably be enough. But we want to at least be 6 feet for saturation as well as dry times. So, all right, so now we've got this house, and we've got this dish. So we've got this sump pump, let's just say, that's in the basement, and we're going to have this discharge pipe coming out. And this could be the downspout coming out as well. So you've got this pipe coming through the yard, and it's going into this well. Well, what I do at this point is insert this. So we have this line being coming in about right here. This is going to set the water right to the bottom of the dry well. In the event that it cannot, if we're soaked, it's been raining for 2 weeks, the water will then percolate out the top of this vent. Instead of trying to push a pop-up up, which may not work, and then it's going to back up and it's going to blow your pump out and you're going to have leaks in the basement. So a dry well is very, very important.
How do you know how big your dry well needs to be?
Well, and that's a good question too. It depends upon the yard. I mean, they could be as small as 2 by 2 by 2. They could be way bigger than that. But when they start to need to be bigger, we treat them like a septic system in the sense that we'll have different barriers. In Ladue, they're very particular about where the water comes and stops before you get to the next house. So sometimes you've got basins that will have a pipe coming off. So even though this will have the grate at the top, it will also be able to transfer over to another one and to another one.
So you really need a professional to come out, take a look at the yard, see what it's doing, how much water you're really dealing with to figure out where. Now I would imagine that, you know, you have a shovel, as long as you have someone who knows what they're doing to come out to tell you what to do, you could dig some of these yourself.
You know, and I love folks that want to be proactive. I like to save money, so it's about getting the right information. I mean, I have no problem coming out and helping somebody dive. But for $150, I'll come out and do a full level evaluation of every aspect of your house as well as the yard. And if you need engineering, we can include that too. So a lot of times, if you're going to buy or sell a house, you're going to need some help outside of just the actual buying and selling of it.
Right.
Look how hard it is for our home inspectors to figure out how to handle some of these situations. There's no one place to go. It's like, well, it's a commercial building, plenty of rules. But because it's a house, not so much, because we can't even seem to come in agreement on a typical drain tile system, or a typical piering system, or a typical, but there's lots of ideas. So in other words,
there's a lot of different opinions out there and a lot of different ways that people try to solve water issues. And what I've come in contact with over 34 years of selling is that a lot of waterproofing is just not done well. Whatever systems or patented systems they say they're using, they're very poor and they do not help the house at all. It gets worse over time.
You know,
so
patenting.
Yeah, patenting is another deal, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But when we're looking at your outside exterior water issues, do French drains work, and when do I know that I need one?
Well, you know, you don't want water standing in the yard is going to cause West Nile issues with bugs. You don't want your kids getting chewed up. So you don't want water sitting in the yard, even if it's not sitting next to your house. But if it's sitting next to your house, did you realize that 500 gallons of water is over 4,100 pounds?
Wow.
You know, it only takes 350 foot-pounds to break your wall.
Wow.
The concrete's compressive strength, you know, it's funny how concrete's really tough when you want to squeeze on it. I mean, it is brutal if you're going to compress it. But concrete, as it stands tall or lays flat, is very vulnerable. It's kind of like glass in the sense that it's like a paper clip. Once
and
it
that's why I
goes,
put so much rebar in it to try to give it some strength.
And when they put the rebar in, a lot of times they put it in rusty, and you wind up with this, but that's a whole other story.
So how do I know when I need a French drain, and how helpful are they?
Well, they're very helpful in the event that you know you can take the water someplace. A lot of times these yards are kind of landlocked, so you got to be very creative as to how you disperse this water probably over a yard. So I'll revert back to a septic system. I live in the country, and that's kind of what all of us are on. And you've got to take that yucky stuff and kind of get it in the yard nice to where we can all live compatibly. Well, it's the same with the French drain. You may at some point with your French drain, as you're collecting it, have it in solid pipe, and then start putting it back in perf pipe so they can gradually go back into the ground in another area. So
you may want to use this one that you had here.
Yes.
The solid pipe where you got the holes at 10 and 2.
And you know
it's
why?
absorbing the
We
water.
can clean that out later.
And I can clean it out and I can get it away someplace. And at some point, I may want to use the perforated to allow it to absorb back in the yard. I just don't want it to do it around my wall.
Right, and so what's important about this is before this gets put in the ground, a geotextile is used with river rock around it, not clean rock.
River rock.
This keeps the system clean. It's like keeping your arteries clean. You don't want the dirt and small things to get in there. So when a French drain does have to be repaired, usually it's got a filter cake built up on it so bad, or they didn't use the right rock and it's just filled with mud. These can be collapsed. I know it's not, I can't do this right now, but it doesn't take my lawnmower can collapse it. So, you know, the word drain tile is kind of what they'll use, French drain tiles when they call it inside, but the tile itself, it all came from this, these clay tiles. And they had belled ends on them and they connect together. And this, you'll see a lot of these in the city, what they're still going down into, but this is where the word drain tile came from. And there's lots of variations of that. I mean, we've got everything from a channel drain that could be out there. It looks something like this. There's several different variations to what a drain tile is and where it's placed. This is also another type of a drain tile.
This is really interesting because you've got this area up here. So what kind of system is this?
This is a winter discharge. This is
Okay.
for a house
That has very heavy water issues, and we've got maybe even 2 pumps running in this house. Maybe we even have a 3 horsepower pump, which means it's shooting bullets out. Well, if this
So I
gets
can use this for
compromised,
some pumps or gutter.
right?
Either one.
You're not going to use it for a gutter most of the time because it's going to be going out. Generally, this is for a sump pump because
Sump
you don't
pump.
want the pump to die.
We have done it, and again, it takes that site, and it takes the math, and it takes thinking about what is this worst case scenario.
Right.
If I've got a pitched roof that's grabbing way too much water, probably isn't a bad idea for this in the event that it can't keep up, because you get vapor lock. And that's another thing, is you have to drill holes in some of these sometimes so that the water.
Well, what I
continues
see
to
happen a lot is people drain their sump pumps from the basement, getting that water out away, and boom, it's draining right outside the wall.
How many of
and
them
it's
just go
coming right back in again.
recirculating pump.
So, if my sump pump's draining into here, why do I need this?
Because in the winter when it's freezing, this is only for when this could possibly be frozen.
I see.
You don't want the pump to burn out.
So we put it in here.
It's a
Hopefully
lesser
it's going to go
evil.
out here, and it's
Yeah,
going to
but-
either percolate up here, or I'm going to put a bunch of holes down here,
Dry well.
and in a dry well, and it's going to go down here, or in the winter if it's frozen, it's just going to shoot right
And
out.
always, daylight's always best. If I can take this off and go to daylight and put a grid on it or cut
Just
it,
run it out on the
man,
ground.
that's always best. Always, always, always. So, but at the end of that, you want to put riprap or some rock or something because you're going to erode where the end of it is.
Right.
But
This is
winter
awesome.
discharges are just for that. Oh my gosh, it's been frozen for 2 weeks. We don't get a lot of that these days, but when we do, you want to be ready for it. And this keeps the pump from blowing up in the house, because if the pump goes, that's your last line of defense.
Right. Now you got water in your basement.
Yeah.
So Steve, thanks for helping us out on the exterior water issues today. If you would like someone to come out and evaluate your yard and the way the water's running and how close it's running to the house, and if it's putting that kind of pressure on your walls and you don't even know it, and then boom, all of a sudden you're going to have a crack. Call Steve Burton at Waterproof Solutions. Steve, how can they get a hold of you?
WaterproofSolutionsSTL.com, or you can call me on my cell, 636-236-9933. I'm an owner that comes out.
Oh, that's awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video, and remember to subscribe as we post a new one every Thursday. Thanks for joining the Midwest Property Gal. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.